name is Rick Sanchez and I'm with a company called Tractor Tip. I've been in the equipment business most of my life, so I get a number of inquiries on what to look for when purchasing a unit. So I put together some short videos on what I look for when considering buying a machine. I could have typed this out, but they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and maybe a video is worth more than that. Plus, I'm not very good at typing, and so I don't like to type. My suggestions are merely guidelines to potential problem areas that I look for based on my own personal experience. If you're unsure about something, I highly recommend that you hire a qualified mechanic to inspect the machine before you buy it. So in these videos, I'm going to have broad categories such as engine, transmission, hydraulic systems, and then each of those will have their own videos, since these items are common across the board of equipment. And in subsequent videos, I'll discuss what I look for with the work equipment on a more category-specific basis, like excavators, bulldozers, wheel loaders, backhoes, etc. Again, these are just broad suggestions that an average man can use in ascertaining whether or not to buy a machine without the use of expensive gauges, instruments, and computers, and we hope that it helps. Okay, this second part is when the engine's cold. One of the things that you want to check for is you want to check the radiator and the radiator core for any leaks. You check the reservoir and make sure that the reservoir's got like a kind of a neon color coolant. A lot of times when people are running the machines, especially here in Texas, because the fear of something freezing over is not very real. People, when the radiators are leaking, they'll just put water in the radiator. So when you look at the reservoir, if you see that it's mainly water, that's evidence of a leak in and of itself. So again, you want to check the radiator core for damage. You want to check the bottom radiator hose and the top radiator hose and make sure that they're not leaking. You want to check the fan belts, make sure that the fan belts are in good order. You want to, the other thing is you want to make sure that the battery's the right size. A lot of times people will put the wrong size battery in a machine, especially when they're looking to sell it. If the machine will work, it'll start the first few go-rounds, but it'll short life the battery. You want to make sure that the electrical cables are all in good condition and not rotted or dried out. You can see that these are in pretty good condition. The other thing you want to look for is, on the air compressor, again, look at all these cables and whatnot, make sure they're in, the electrical cables, make sure they're in decent condition. If it's got an air compressor, you want to make sure that the air compressor kicks on and off like it should. The air filter here, a lot of the bigger machines have got an inner and an outer element. You want to make sure that both the elements are there and that they're both clean. The other thing you want to do is you want to check for any leaks in the exhaust system, or that your muffler's screwed on tight, because a lot of times right around that area is where you start having trouble when the muffler breaks off of the manifold, and you want to check that. You want to check the exhaust for any leaks. You want to check that hydraulic pump. I don't know if you can get in there. You want to check that hydraulic pump for any leaks. Again, when you're first looking at the machine, you want to do that. Look under the machine to see. You want to find the main control valve for the hydraulics and make sure that all the hoses are in good order and that there's no leaks on the hoses. The other thing you want to do is you want to check the hydraulic sight gauge and make sure that the color of the oil is not milky in color, or milky obviously is water. I think that's about it for cold engines. So I guess this is part 3 of what to look for in an engine transmission when buying a piece of construction equipment. When you start the machine, you want to listen for anything that's out of sync with the engine running. You want to make sure that it's got a consistent monotone rhythm to it. You want to look for excess smoke. Usually when you start a machine, especially a diesel engine, you know, it'll belch smoke when you first started, but that's nothing to be concerned about. You want to make sure that the throttle control works in the machine. You know, throttle it up and throttle it down. If there's an air conditioner, does it blow? Again, you want to make sure that that compressor's kicking on and off. You want to check the machine for excess blow-by, and there's a couple of ways to do that without gauges. You can pull this dipstick out and see how much you're going to have crank pressure or crankcase pressure in the machine anyway. But and again, these are just guidelines because some machines will, depending on where that dipstick is located, you might get more oil spitting out than, you know, other machines. The other way to do it, some people say, is that you open this engine oil filler neck and check it there. Again, some pressure is normal. As far as the transmission goes, the only way you can check the transmission is with the machine on and rolling. You know, with a hydrostatic system, this is a conventional engine transmission setup. With a hydrostatic system, you want to check for noise and vibration. You want to note any kind of leaks or any kind of damage that might happen to the drive motors or drive, like this is a tandem gear case assembly. You want to note any kind of damage to those systems. You know, blown O-rings or gaskets or seals. So again, when you're testing the transmission, you want to make sure that the unit shifts through all of the gears without slipping or hesitation, in forward and reverse. One of the things that I do to test the viability of a machine, to make sure that all of the horsepower is there and the transmission's working correctly, is I'll put it in low gear and I'll do what I call a push test. And basically what I'll do is I'll put the machine against an immovable object, be it a tree stump or whatever, or I'll bury the blade, and I'll make sure that the tires or the tracks spin. That just shows that the machine's got the wherewithal to carry a full, not only does it have the wherewithal to carry the full load of material, but its own weight, so the tires will spin. For the brakes, you know, a good way to test the parking brake is you get the machine to a slow roll and then you apply the brake to check that it's working. It should come to a stop if it's working. For the regular brakes, you want to get the machine up to top speed and then slam on the brakes and make sure that it stops on a dime. You may want to work yourself up to that because you don't want to be going top speed and find out you don't have any brakes. As far as with a some dozers have a steer and clutch and brake system, so you want to make sure on those type of systems that the machines brake and steer to the right and to the left properly. The other thing with like bulldozers and independent final drive systems is that you want the machine, you want to track the machine a good ways and see if it veers one way to the left or one way to the right. That could be indicative of maybe one of the final drive motors is going bad, or a number of other things, but we'll talk about that with dozers. I guess that's about it. Okay, this next part is I'm going to talk about what to look for, you know, as far as the cab is concerned. The first thing you should check is to make sure that the ROPS or the FOPS has never been damaged. ROPS is a rollover protection device, and FOPS is a fallover protection device. Like this machine here, I guess, would be considered a FOPS. You want to check for that it's been kicked one way to the other, because if it has, it compromises the structural integrity of what the cab is intended to do, which is to protect you. The general condition of the operator station can give you a pretty good clue as to how the rest of the machine has been treated. You want to note it, any kind of broken glass that hasn't been fixed, any dented metal, or any kind of structural rust. You know, surface rust is okay, but if it's really impregnated into the system or into the metal, then that could be a problem. You want to turn on the machine. We'll do this on the other videos with machine specifics, but you want to turn on the machine. You want to make sure that all the gauges and the instrument panels are in good working order. You know, honk the horn, check the backup alarm, check all of the lights and the work lamps, check the machine hours, note the machine hours. And just check whether all the little things work. You know, your heating, your air conditioner. Is the air conditioner blowing cold? Do the windshield wipers work if it's got a cab? Check the seat. You know, is the seat torn? Does it move back and forth easily? Does it recline easily? Do all of the windows and the doors open and close the way they're supposed to? You know, when you get in the machine, all of these machines, when you start the engine, an oil pressure light will come on. You want to make sure that that oil pressure light comes off when you kill it. Again, we'll talk more specifically about individual like categories of machines, like what to look for in a motor grader and whatnot later on. But this is just a broad cab overview.